It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We have a snow day tomorrow, so I'm going back to bed. And then tomorrow, let's do a snow day vlog. Okay? Okay. Okay, so I just did a little project, or I started a project, but I am out of printer paper, so I need to wait until more comes to my house to finish it. But basically, every December or so, I look at everyone's favorites of the year and all that, and even favorites of previous years, and I just get really excited for the year upcoming to figure out what I'm going to read. And like, basically we have 2 months left, so why not do that now and really have like a banging last 2 months of the year? So what I am doing is I am printing pictures of my favorites. I think I picked like, let's see, 3 people from BookTube and 2 people from real life. Well, BookTube people are now real life people too. But anyway, and I am just putting them in this jar, and then I can pull one out and yeah, just read a favorite's favorite. Hey everyone, okay, so I thought that I would give a little bit more details about why we had a snow day and what kind of led up to that, share what I read during the snow day, and then share what I plan to read this weekend. So first of all, we knew that snow was supposed to come on Halloween, but it is October, or was obviously when this was happening. And so basically we were just like, oh yeah, it'll just be like flakes in the air or dusting. And that is not at all what happened. Like definitely certain parts of Michigan had just a dusting, but like we just got like pounded on. It looked like we were living in a snow globe the entire day at school. Students were freaking out, teachers were freaking out. I kept taking videos and pictures throughout the day, so I'll include some of that in here. But yeah, basically by the time it got to the end of the day, one of my coworkers was like, I bet trick-or-treating is going to be canceled. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's snow, you know, whatever. But it was like a hard, wet snow, and basically loads of trees went down, power went out. Like some people were without power for like 2 or 3 days. 3 days, I think. So yeah, it actually was kind of a big deal. And we ended up having a snow day on Wednesday, the day after trick-or-treating was supposed to happen. Trick-or-treating was rescheduled for Wednesday, then it was rescheduled again for Saturday, I think, or maybe Friday. I don't know. It's very confusing, and it's based on where you live. But yeah, it was nice to have just a random day off, especially the day after Halloween parties and stuff like that at school. And basically, I finished the book that I read with Brie, and essentially, I was going to finish it on Halloween, but I was in the bathtub reading the book when all of a sudden the lights just went out. And I just could not be bothered to get like my backpacking headlamp, or like I have a lantern, I think, under the sink, or I intended to put one under the sink because that's like a spot where I would remember that I had put some sort of light source in the event of a power outage. But anyway, I ended up finishing it, I think, Wednesday night. So the day we had off from school, I finished it that evening. And the book was Hollow Places, if I haven't mentioned that yet, or The Hollow Place, or something of that extent. I will put a picture here because it's a library book. And it was my second buddy read with Brie. Our first one, neither of us liked. A second one, to be determined, because I haven't heard her thoughts on the final ending of it so far. However, I do know that she liked it as we were going on. Just reading it. And yeah, it was my second T. Kingfisher, and I liked it. I would say maybe like 3.75, 4 stars. So what I like from T. Kingfisher so far, anyway, is like her cozy horror. And when I look at Storygraph, like, no spoilers, but well, I take that back because this is a spoiler. You know how it will show you your top few genres? Horror is one of my top, and I thought I could not handle horror. I thought I was a baby and needed baby horror, but apparently it's one of my top this year. It was very similar to The House with Good Bones, which I had read initially. That was my first book by her, and I loved it so much. In that, it was primarily focused on a woman, and the woman had recently moved someplace new. So in The House with Good Bones, she goes home to hang out with her mom because her job is basically like unavailable at this point because they found a dead body on the dig site that she was supposed to be working on. And then in this one, the woman moved home because she had just gone through a divorce. And usually I always picture the characters to be around my age, maybe younger. They're kind of like, I guess, I don't know what you would call it. Not early adults, because I don't think that I qualify for that category anymore, but like late 20s, early 30s, which I also don't qualify in that category anymore. And so in the book that I read, I will try and explain as much of it as I can without saying too much, but essentially this girl decides to move in with her uncle instead of moving in with her mom, because sometimes her mom and hers don't really get along all the time, and she simply adores her uncle. So it was really cool to see like a uncle niece sort of relationship, because as Brie mentioned, that's not something that is often in books at all. So anyway, she goes and lives with him. However, he actually like owns a museum, and it's like a real quirky museum with just a bunch of like odd things in there. Like, it's pretty much a tourist trap, to be honest. And he owns the whole building that this museum is in. So that also includes a coffee shop, you know, because it is a cozy horror book. And basically, because he owns the building, the agreement that he was kind of reached with the coffee shop owner is basically that like he gets like cheaper rent or something like that if the owner will give them like free coffee whenever they want or whatever. So a relationship also develops between Simon and our main character, who, by the way, her name is Kara, Kara, but her uncle calls her Carrot, which is just like a nickname left over from when she was a child, and Simon also calls her Carrot. So mostly she's referred to as Carrot throughout the book. So she is just starting to help out in the museum. That's kind of her job while she's there. And not really all of a sudden, but like her uncle is having knee issues and just kind of decides enough is enough. He needs to have surgery on him. I think he's having a knee replacement in one of them or both of them, or I don't really know. I don't think you often do two at the same time. Anyway, so he is out of the picture. And so it's basically Kara now responsible for managing this museum completely on her own. And of course, Simon is nearby for random cups of coffee or chats or using his Wi-Fi. But besides that, she's on her own. And essentially, I don't think I want to say anything about what happens next, but I will kind of say that the rest of the book is a little bit like a Narnia situation, you know, like where you go through the wardrobe and there's all of a sudden you're in this new world. It's a little bit like that, and you definitely find that out quickly. I just don't want to give too many details, but it's almost like a dark Narnia. It's like the author's like response to Narnia almost. And T. Kingfisher is very open about discussing Narnia in the book, and even the characters are like, wow, this is kind of like Narnia. So yeah, but I'll just like let you figure out like how they get to Narnia and what Narnia is like and all that sort of stuff. All those details I think are fun to discover on your own. And what else to say about it? The other thing I will say is that Kara and Simon have a platonic relationship, and I love that there can be a mixed, you know, like a guy and a girl being friends, nothing else. It's like kind of refreshing, because I feel like if you are an adult in a book and one is a guy and one is a girl, like, you know, and that's not always what happens in real life. Sometimes, but not all the time. And it turns out that the reason that doesn't happen is because Simon is gay. But I almost wish that there wasn't a reason, that it was just like they just weren't each other's types, or maybe one was ace or whatever. Like, I don't love that it was just explained away as like, oh, well, he's gay, because like, we do need just random representation that doesn't have a lot to do with the plot, and is just like a random mentioning for sure. But I also think that there's less ace representation, or just people not being connected in that way. And so I think that was a missed opportunity, but also kind of cool that there was a platonic friendship in the book. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was cozy while being graphic in parts. Like, I don't know how she does that, but she does. So yeah, like 3.75 maybe, if I could give it that. What am I reading now? I created this jar, which is across the room from me right now, so I'll just put a picture of it up. So Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies was something that I found on Sarah's Storygraph, and we hadn't talked about it at all before I started reading it. It was just the most recent book on her Storygraph that she gave 5 stars to. However, she has changed her rating. Whatever, it was 5 stars when she initially had it on. But it kind of made me think about how excited I get towards the end of the year when everyone posts their favorites videos. And every single year I get super excited about starting a new reading journal and like starting this spread about my favorites and all this stuff, and reading some of their favorite books and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, we have 2 months left of the year. What about if I just read their favorites now? Like, what about if I have a banging last 2 months because I have been reading my favorites? So with that being said, I picked 3 booktubers whom I adore. And if that's not you, that doesn't mean I don't adore you. It's just I only have so many stickers. I will read your stuff later. I promise. I still love you so much. Okay. But I picked Sarah, Heather, and Bree. Nope, I picked 4 because I also picked Dee Dee. So 4 booktubers. And I basically looked on their Storygraph, their Goodreads, whatever was available. And I went through and I found all their 5-star books that I also happen to own. So not all their 5-star books, but the ones that they rated 5 stars, and I also own them because I want to read my own collection. And I also picked 2 people that I know in real life, although I have met half of the booktubers. One of them lives not very far from me at all, and the other one is in France, so there's that. But we have talked on Zoom like 50,000 times, so I kind of feel like they're all real life people. But anyway, yeah, the 2 real life people that I picked where basically this girl that I went to elementary school with in kindergarten and first grade, and we have kept in touch because we both are like vegetarian-ish. She's vegan, I'm vegetarian. She loves to travel. I love to travel. And we both love books. She's actually a librarian, but not at a public library, at the university level, I believe. And then also my cousin Carrie, who is in our family book club with me, and we sometimes have similar tastes as well. So yeah, those are the people. I stalked them, as I said, and then I printed a sticker of each of the books that we share, basically. And then I just the other day reached into the jar, rummaged about, and pulled one out. And the book that I pulled out was Slay, which I purchased this book because I heard that it was basically about this girl. What is her name? I forgot. Kira. And she has basically started her own video game, which is like virtual reality, like I don't know video games, so I don't know like the terminology, but like live, like people play together at the same time in this world, whatever. And I just thought that sounded really fierce and like amazing because she's like a kid. She's a senior in high school. And then the other thing I knew about it going in was that this cover is amazing. So I just started it today. I'm not too far in, but so far I'm really liking it. I really like basically the world that she created online is basically this place where Black people actually belong and is actually designed for them, by them, basically. And the world that this video game is centered in, it's obviously like fantasy-ish, like just like not real. Maybe it's science fiction. I don't know. But you know, like definitely like there's like spells you can cast and like all these like duels you can do and all sorts of stuff that are in this. But everything is based on like Black history or current people that are really influential. And so that's really cool, like how creative she was to weave all that in. And then as you're reading the book, you are learning more about these people and you're hearing her perspective. And it's just like a very strong, like Black power sort of a book so far. But it's YA, so, you know, it's cool that if you were a kid and you were reading this, you would have access to all those people. And then also kind of being inspired by the main character to read more famous Black authors and to question how the world is and stuff like that. So yeah, I really like it so far. She also talks about historically Black universities, and so like if you're a kid reading this, you could be curious about those and see about if you want to add those to your list of colleges that you're thinking of applying to. So not super far, but I'm hoping I can finish this today, maybe. And then I have a few books out from the library, very minimal, but apparently it's 21. That's actually very small for me, very small number. But anyway, I have The Undying, which is by Anne Boyer. And this is a book that is due next. So I just thought I would try to get done with it this weekend. And essentially the reason that I got this is just because I am kind of reading a lot of medical stuff right now just to, you know, make me more knowledgeable and also provide comfort. And I don't know, it's just a weird quirk, okay? One time I had plastic surgery on my eyelids and I was so nervous. I have never been more nervous in my entire life. And so I went online and I looked up pictures of the actual procedure, and that brought me comfort. Like, there's no one in the world that would get comfort from eyelids that were flipped inside out, clamped with the Putterman clamp or whatever my doctor's name was, sliced open and sewn together. But it brought me comfort to know what was going on. So somehow I think this will bring me comfort as well. So hoping to get to it this weekend. Essentially, it says a week after her 41st birthday, acclaimed poet Anne Boyer, so poet, this is going to be good, was diagnosed with highly aggressive triple-negative breast cancer. For a single mother living paycheck to paycheck, this catastrophic illness was both a crisis and an initiation into new ideas about mortality and the gendered politics of illness. So I think this will not just be a memoir about her experience, but also get into the deeper questions. So I guess one nonfiction for Nonfiction November. And then I'm also reading a longer nonfiction, which is, I'll put a picture up. It is about longevity, but it's not really like about that, because that word is like annoying and almost a trigger for the author. Essentially, it's about lengthening your health span and about the different types of medicine. So medicine 1.0 is basically just like learning from experience and from observations and like making educated guesses and then seeing if they worked out for you. And then medicine 2.0 is kind of what we're in right now, which is based on like the scientific method and science and research, and it's very treatment oriented, so either focused on surgeries or like medicines. And yeah, and then I think there's medicine 3.0, which is where we're trying to head, and I think a lot of doctors are already in that mindset, but not everybody, and a lot of patients are already in that mindset, but not everybody. And essentially the book is going to be about medicine 3.0, which is where patients are empowered and required to be educated, and basically it's very forward thinking and proactive. So they talked about like the 4 horsemen, I think is what they called them, and I'm not sure if I can remember them. One was like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and then I think the other one was like memory sort of stuff, like Alzheimer's and stuff like that. I think those were the 4. And those are basically the 4 things that a lot of people get when they get older. And then they have this slow, miserable decline. And the idea of medicine 3.0 is that you would be doing all this preventative stuff so that you're less likely to get those 4 things. And if you do get them, you're in a better like place. Like your body is stronger and stuff like that, so you can kind of hopefully deal with them a little bit better, and then hopefully you would have a quick decline that would be spread out farther into the future rather than a slow gradual decline. I don't know, it's really interesting, but it's just not a book I'm gonna finish in a day. Like I read like maybe a chapter a day. I think you saw in this video actually when I was like a hot mess in my pajamas that I highlight when I read, and then the next day I will take notes on what I've highlighted and then read a new chapter and highlight it, and then the next day I go back and take notes on the previous day's chapter and then read a new chapter. So that way it's like kind of going into my brain twice, because yeah, I read it and then the next day take notes. So that's something that's also going on that I don't have in my pile here just because it's going to be a long hauler. It's quite thick as well. And then there is another book that I want to get to on NetGalley because I'm horrible about reading my NetGalley books. And I think it's called Same Bed, Different Dreams. And it's something about like Korea and like possibly like a dual universe world sort of situation, like a parallel universe sort of thing. I'm not 100% sure, because when I can tell that it's going to be like kind of science fiction or something like that, it's like I don't really know, I don't want to know much about it. So anyway, and then finally, we'll see how much I get to this weekend. Finally, a book came in the day after Halloween, so the day after it came out, and that is The Reformatory, which is by Tananarive Due. And essentially this is about this school for boys that was an actual school where horrible things happened. And I have somewhere around here a nonfiction book about it. And then also The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead is also about that school. And then this is supposedly like a horror book that is based on that school as well. So interesting to have like a whole bunch of genres on that school: nonfiction, literary fiction, and then horror. So anyway, that is kind of what I hope to get to this weekend. I don't really have any scheduled plans. I always get busy with other stuff. Like I will go to the gym tomorrow, which is going to take a long time because I always spend a long time at the gym on Saturdays. And I have been in the habit of getting a smoothie afterwards. However, I did just go to the store and buy like a million bananas, and they're almost to the point where I can freeze them for smoothies. So yeah, I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. Please tell me what you are reading, what you've read recently and loved. Just tell me about your life in the comments, and I will check in with you guys soon. Bye.